Professional fighters are seen by the general public to be violent individuals. Though this can't be said for all of them, some fighters have proved the stereotype right and had been sentenced to do jail time. Today, we'll be looking at the most famous fighters to ever get on the wrong side of the law. The first and most notable of these is the original baddest man on the planet, Iron Mike Tyson. Just a month after Mike's 25th birthday, the former world champion was arrested under shocking charges of his accuser, a former Miss Black Rhode Island, 18-year-old Desiree Washington. From what Miss Washington had told authorities, Tyson had called her around 1:45 a.m. to tour the city, then picked her up in his limo, took her back to his room, and made small talk as they both sat on the bed. After propositioning her for sex, Washington stated that she firmly refused and went to the bathroom before leaving. After using the bathroom, she said that she noticed some discharge on her panty shield. Washington said she removed the liner and threw it away. When she came out, Tyson then pulled her onto the bed, pinned her down, and her. She stated that he was mean and evil. She claims that she got on top and started to try and get away, but he slammed her down again. 3 days after the assault, Washington went to the police and accused Tyson of Partial corroboration of Washington's story came via testimony from Tyson's chauffeur, Virginia Foster, who confirmed Desiree Washington's state of shock after the incident. Foster also testified that Tyson had previously attempted to sexually assault her too, having lured her into his hotel room, tried to touch her, and then exposed himself. There were, however, many strange details surrounding the defense of Tyson. His lawyer had failed to question some glaring questions, like exactly why did she remove her panty shield? How did Tyson perform oral sex on her and still keep her pinned to the bed? If Tyson is one of the strongest men in the world, where were the bruises on the 108-pound woman? These were crucial, especially when taking into consideration that Miss Washington had falsely accused one of her high school classmates of before. On March 26, 1992, Tyson was sentenced to 6 years in prison along with 4 years of probation. He was assigned to the Plainfield Correctional Facility and he was released in March of 1995 after serving less than 3 years of his sentence. If you're called scary by Mike Tyson, you have to be an exceptional kind of violent. Such is the case of one of the most violent fighters to ever walk the earth, Badr Hari. Badr's trouble with the law began in 2006 when he was first arrested, setting off a pattern of legal entanglements spanning over a decade. His charges primarily revolve around acts of violence, including attempted manslaughter and numerous assaults. A psychologist who spoke to Hari in relation to one of his trials concluded that his success as an athlete and celebrity status, combined with a lack of personal guidance, has resulted in narcissistic personality traits. When asked about his violent eruptions, Hari had said, "I am able to explode at any moment. When my brakes are off, it's just one big clump of explosion, chaos and noise, and I become blind to it all. A storm, a hurricane, a disaster. There's just a certain aggression inside of me, of which I don't know what to do and neither where it comes from." At his conviction on 21st February 2014, the district attorney described Hari as an individual who is very short-tempered, indulges in vulgar power displays, and demonstrates aggressive and intimidating behavior which is characterized by a high "do you even know who I am" caliber. Late October 2012, an indictment was handed to Hari in his holding cell, which contained 9 criminal charges against Hari. These included 8 crimes of violence and 1 moving violation. The moving violation relates to an incident on March 10th where a pedestrian sustained injuries. The 8 crimes of violence were attempted manslaughter of Cain Velasquez, who was later murdered in 2016, however without any link to Badr Hari, 2 assaults in nightclub Club Air, the assault of the brother and ex-partner in bar Cool Down, an assault in Club Jimmy Woo, an assault of 2 people including a woman in July 2011, and the assault of a doorman in 2010. In July 2012, Hari handed himself in to the police as he feared being arrested by a SWAT team, having come forth to deny his involvement in an alleged assault on businessman Cain Velasquez, who claimed Hari was responsible for inflicting his face and leg injuries, including a broken ankle. Further allegations of assault were made by an Amsterdam nightclub owner. The latter alleged that he had been attacked by Hari, saying that he suffered a broken jaw and lost teeth after being kicked in the head during an altercation at his nightclub, and that in light of Everink seeking to press charges, he would also seek to press charges. On the 21st of February 2014, the District Court of Amsterdam sentenced him to prison for 1.5 years. His legal team filed an immediate appeal, as did the prosecution. However, the Court of Appeal found him guilty of aggravated assault, noticing in particular that each of his assaults were preceded by a relatively mild quarrel and that to his victims, his violent behavior came as a complete surprise, leaving them no chance to defend themselves. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison, of which 10 months suspended. Since he had already spent 8 months in pre-arrest, he still had to serve half a year in prison. In addition, he had to pay his victims compensation of 45,000 euros in total. This judgment was upheld by the Supreme Court of the Netherlands in 2017. The most recent news on fighters with legal trouble came this year when the sentencing of former UFC heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez was held. On February 28, 2022, Velasquez shot at a man in Santa Clara County, California, and hit an unintended victim. The man whom Velasquez allegedly intended to shoot, Harry Jr., had been arrested prior to the shooting for allegedly committing child sexual abuse on Velasquez's son at a daycare owned by Galat's family, and was later released from custody on a bond. An armed Velasquez chased after the vehicle that contained Galat Jr., his stepfather and mother. Velasquez rammed the vehicle with his own before pulling out his firearm, shooting at the man through the window and missing, instead hitting the man's stepfather and causing him non-life-threatening injuries. Velasquez was later arrested and booked into Santa Clara County Jail on an attempted first-degree murder charge. In court on March 2nd, Velasquez was formally charged with 1 count of attempted first-degree murder, as well as several additional charges, including 1 count of shooting at a motor vehicle, 3 counts of assault with a firearm, 3 counts of assault with deadly weapon, 1 count of willfully discharging a firearm from a vehicle, and 1 count of carrying a loaded firearm with intent to commit a felony. Velasquez's lawyer, Mark Geragos, presented 37 letters of support for Velasquez from people such as Dana White, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Fabricio Verdum, Kelvin Gastelum, Henry Cejudo, Daniel Cormier, Sung Lee, Islam Makhachev, and Scott Coker. In the August 5th motion hearing, Velasquez pleaded not guilty to all charges. After being incarcerated for 8 months, Velasquez was granted a $1 million bail on November 8th. His bail was posted and Velasquez was released from custody the next day. As per the condition of his bail, Velasquez was placed under house arrest until the conclusion of his trial. On August 16, 2024, Velasquez pleaded no contest to all charges. At the March 24th sentencing hearing, Velasquez was sentenced to 5 years in prison and 4 years of supervised probation. With time served in county jail and under house arrest being credited, Velasquez will be eligible for parole in March 2026. Many know Floyd Mayweather Jr. as the trash-talking defensive fighting genius. His past, however, was a lot more troublesome than what you'd believe. Mayweather has been convicted on multiple occasions of domestic violence and battery. In 2002, Mayweather was charged with 2 counts of domestic violence and 1 count of misdemeanor battery. He received a 6-month suspended sentence and 2 days of house arrest. In 2004, Mayweather was given a 1-year suspended jail sentence, ordered to undergo counseling for impulse control and pay a $1,000 fine or perform 100 hours of community service after being convicted of 2 counts of misdemeanor battery against 2 women. On September 9, 2010, it was reported that police were after Mayweather for questioning after his former girlfriend, Josie Harris, filed a domestic battery report against him. Harris accused Mayweather of battery in the past, but those charges were dropped in July 2005 after Harris testified that she had lied and that Mayweather had not battered her. Mayweather was taken into custody September 10, 2010, but was released after posting $3,000 bail. Mayweather was initially charged with felony theft on September 16th, 2 felony coercion charges, 1 felony robbery, 1 misdemeanor domestic battery charge, and 3 misdemeanor harassment charges were added. On December 21, 2011, a judge sentenced Mayweather to serve 90 days in county jail for the battery upon Ms. Harris in September 2010. Mayweather also pleaded no contest to 2 counts of misdemeanor harassment stemming from threats to his children. In addition to the 90-day sentence, Mayweather was ordered to complete 100 days of community service, a 12-month domestic violence program, and pay a fine of $2,500. On June 1st, Mayweather began serving his county jail sentence and was released on August 3, 2012. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as Mayweather's former protege Gervonta "Tank" Davis had a history of assault charges and more. On September 19, 2017, an arrest warrant was issued for Davis, who was being accused of first-degree aggravated assault. The charge was later changed to a misdemeanor second-degree assault, which carries a maximum potential sentence of 10 years or a fine of $2,500 or both. At the court, Anthony Wheeler, a childhood friend, complained that Davis punched him on the side of the head with a gloved fist. He then stated that he was diagnosed with a concussion at the hospital. The incident took place at Upton Boxing Center in West Baltimore. It was said that Davis would stand trial on November 29, 2017. On that day, the charges were dropped by Wheeler. The Baltimore Sun stated that Davis and Wheeler both embraced and walked out of the courtroom together. On September 14, 2018, Davis was arrested in Washington, D.C. According to a police report, he and another man had started a fist fight. Punches were being landed around the upper body, and it was later said that someone had tried to break up the fight and both men tried to flee before the police arrived. 2 years later, Davis was arrested on charges of simple battery or domestic violence. The incident occurred at the Watsco Center at the University of Miami during a basketball game, where he was seen grabbing the woman's shirt with his right hand close to her throat and dragged her to a separate room. In March 2021, he was indicted on 14 counts for allegedly causing a serious car crash after running a red light after a November 2020 birthday party in downtown Baltimore. His Lamborghini struck another car and left it smoking, sending the occupants to the hospital, including a pregnant woman. He allegedly left the scene in a Camaro that pulled up minutes later. On February 16th, Davis accepted a plea deal that saw him plead guilty to leaving the scene of an accident involving bodily injury, failing to notify an owner of property damage, driving on a suspended license, and running a red light. He was sentenced on May 5th, 2023 to 90 days of house arrest and 3 years probation. On June 1st, 2023, Davis was taken into custody for violating the terms of his home detention and sentenced to serve the remainder of his sentence in jail. 44 days later, on July 14th, 2023, Davis completed the confinement portion of his sentence and was released from Baltimore jail. Those are some of the most well-known names in combat sports to have ever served jail time. Drop a comment if any of these surprised you. Also, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, please do consider subscribing and leaving a like on the videos. It helps us tremendously. Until next time.